Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week's Torah reading, Parashat Tisa, contains one of the great dramatic stories of the whole Torah. The story, of course, of the golden calf. We know the basics of the story. Moses is up at the top of Mount Sinai receiving the Torah, and Aaron is basically in charge down at the bottom, in charge of the people. So the nation of Israel, Bnei Yisrael, get impatient. They ask, "Where is Moses?" And they demand of Aaron that he make them a god. Aseh lanu Elohim asher yelchu lefanenu. Make us a god who shall go before us. So Aaron collects their jewelry and he makes an idol. When he speaks about it, though, he doesn't claim to be making an idol, but he claims to be making a representation of the Israelite God. Vayar Aaron vayivez mizbeach lefanav. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before the people and said, Chag ladonai machar. Tomorrow shall be a festival of the Lord. So the next day, the people of Israel made sacrifices to this golden calf that he had made, and they danced around it. God told Moses what was happening, and Moses rushed down the mountain, and we all know what he did then. He dropped or threw down the tablets containing the 10 Commandments, and he admonished the people. The Levites rushed to his defense, and they punished, killing about 3,000 Israelites. So for many people, this is a story about a lack of patience. Lack of patience of the Israelites toward Moses. Why did they lose faith that he would come down the mountain? All kinds of midrashim say that Moses was late. He was a little bit late. He was a lot late, but it was impatience. That's number one. Number two, impatience of the Israelites toward God. God had just rescued them from Egypt. God had just rescued them from the Egyptian army that was coming toward them. God split the Reed Sea, led them through. They just sang Shirat Hayam, this beautiful song of thanksgiving, of gratitude. Where did all that go? Where did all that faith go so quickly? And, of course, impatience of both God and Moses toward Israel. Israel does this terrible thing, not entirely clear if they think they're worshiping an idol, they think they're worshiping the Israelite God with this representation that they were used to. But God says, let's destroy them. I'm done with them. Moses gets extremely angry, kills 3,000 Israelites, but he prevents God from killing all of them. I want to look at the story, though, from another perspective, from the perspective of transformation. So we can all understand the idea of a transformative experience. Actually, the special Shabbat name for this Shabbat, Shabbat Parah, is about that kind of transformative experience. This week's Maftir reading and the special Haftarah is about the story of the Parah Adumah, the brown cow or red cow that helped transform people from being ritually impure to being ritually pure. We read this special Maftir now as a way to get us ready for Passover, which is just a few weeks away. That idea of transformation, I think, is at the heart of the story of Parashat Tisa. So why is that? For one reason. Moses had undergone this transformation on the top of Mount Sinai. He felt closer to God and understood God in a way that no one else felt. Even his brother Aaron, who was, of course, with him as part of this Yetziat Mitzrayim, this leaving Egypt experience, he didn't experience leaving Egypt. He didn't experience Mount Sinai in the same way that Moses did. Moses was transformed in a way that no one else, not even his brother Aaron, was. At the very end of the Torah reading, we read how Moses was physically transformed. The Torah says the following at the very end of our reading. And as Moses came down from the mountain bearing the 2 tablets of the pact, this is the second set, Moses was not aware that the skin of his face was radiant, that it glowed, since he had spoken with God. Umoshe lo yada ki karan or panav bidabro ito. Moses' face was so radiant that the people of Israel didn't want to talk to him. They wanted him to have a veil, so that there would be some sort of separation between the glowing nature of who he became and their more normal understanding of life. This outer transformation of Moses, of course, was just a reflection of the inner transformation. He was different The way he understood the world was different than it had been before. For Moses, the episode of the golden calf was an example of what happened to a nation without faith, a nation without a sense of gratitude toward the God who had saved them from slavery and certain death in the desert. It was inconceivable to him why they didn't believe the way that he believed. For Aaron, who had not experienced revelation the same way that Moses had, the episode of the golden calf was perfectly understandable. Not that he approved, but of course the people need a representation of God. They need something physical to look at, to touch, to dance around. That's what they were used to in Egypt. How can you expect them to go from that to our understanding of God in so short a time? This sense of transformation, of how an experience can change us on the inside and the outside, is beautifully expressed in a story that Professor Jack Wertheimer told about the great writer Franz Kafka. In his book, The Uses of Tradition, Professor Wertheimer, who teaches American Jewish history at the Jewish Theological Seminary, describes how the last time Kafka visited Berlin, he happened upon a girl crying on a park bench. He asked her why she was crying, and she told him that she had lost her doll. Kafka told her that the doll had not been lost, that the doll was actually off on a series of adventures, and that Kafka had actually met the doll the day before. He promised the girl that if she would return to the park the next day, Kafka would bring her a letter from the doll. So the girl did return the next day, and the day after that, and for weeks, Kafka brought this girl letters that, of course, he wrote, but that he said were from the doll that this girl had lost. As his tuberculosis worsened, Kafka decided that it was time to return to Prague, where he would eventually die. But before he left Berlin, he visited this girl and said to come back the next day and that he would bring her her doll, her long-lost doll. So the next day, the girl came, and he brought the doll, but the doll looked different because, of course, it wasn't the same doll. And what did Kafka tell this girl? He told her that the doll looked different because her journey, her trip, everything that she had done and seen had transformed her. That she was the same doll, but that she looked different because she was different on the inside as well. A transformative experience, Kafka teaches us, can change us both internally and externally. Understanding the power of this transformative experience means acknowledging the uniqueness of each person and understanding that we all have experiences that change us, that mold us, that shape us, and that make us the unique individual that we are. There's no doubt that we're living through one of those experiences now. Each one of us is living through this COVID experience. We're all experiencing it, though, in a slightly different way. We're all experiencing it in our own unique way. And when we have moved into a different stage, either of this virus or when things return to some semblance of normal, we will be able to reflect and to try and understand how this virus, how this time period, which is now over a year, how it has changed us, how it has transformed us, how some parts of us have stayed the same and some parts, some elements have changed. We will figure it out together. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what it's going to look like there when things are in a different place, but we'll get there together. We will be able to support each other and to help each other as we move from this world to the way the world will be then. Shabbat Shalom.